Hello, Honda Motor Company, Japan. Oh, hello, Ross Braun. What do you want? Really? You want to buy our F1 team? Get this, Ross Braun want to buy our F1 team. Yeah, sure, no problem, Ross Braun. And we at Honda wish you the very best of luck with F1 team. Sorry, Sean, wait a moment. Oh, one moment, Ross Braun. Ask him if you also want to buy 25,000 unsold Honda Legends at knockdown price too. Oh, don't be ridiculous. He's not that stupid.
Gareth Jones on Speed!
Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth Jones, and this week I have mostly been driving a Ford Transit Connect. Richard, what have you mostly been driving this week, or even in the last 24 hours?
Actually, I've been driving that Lexus 600 LS600H,
Like I had.
that we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, and I borrowed Top Gear magazine's long-term test car. I went home in it tonight, in fact. It was a very relaxing way to get home, but then, I don't know, I think being kicked home by a gang of wolves would be quite relaxing after that Evo of mine. I don't know. I'm not the one to judge. I got a Hyundai Matrix minicab over here. That seemed quite relaxing as well. Full leather interior as well. So everything's relaxing after the Evo.
I've had a motoring experience that is in a way more relaxing, but in another way a lot less relaxing. I have mostly this week been trying to drive a Ford GT40 around the Nürburgring. In the virtual world of Racer, anyone out there who's after an OS X driving simulator, I can recommend Racer. It's a free download. It works, it's good, but as I've discovered in the last couple of days, if you don't have a USB steering wheel, it really is a bitch to control. I did manage to get round in under 20 minutes, and there was an awful lot of spinning going on.
Well, I've got a Williams F1 USB steering wheel in the attic, which I will pull down and give you to plug in, and you can talk about it on the show again.
Right. Let you know how I got on.
The premise for this part of the programme is an idea Zog brought to the show tonight, which is about advice. Let's see if I've got this right, Zog. That what you're interested in hearing from us and sharing is the best advice you have either ever received regarding cars and motoring, or given someone regarding cars and motoring. Is that right?
As you can tell, I hadn't really thought this idea through, as it's clear. We're not summing this up in a nice, clear, simple way. But no, I was just thinking about, what's the best and the worst advice you've personally come across? That you've either been given or off the top of my head, because I just, one of the, definitely one of the worst bits of motoring advice that I ever received was in Washington State, North America, a few years ago, from the cop that gave me the ticket. Don't bother paying that ticket. He was perfectly friendly. I had been going a little bit fast, but and as we were talking afterwards, he was asking, how long we were going to be in the States for, and we'll be here for another couple of weeks. Then we're going back to the UK. Oh, okay, fine. Well, I wouldn't bother paying the ticket.
And why would you say this?
They're never going to catch up with you, he said. And,
what was the upshot of this then?
Well, the upshot was that I did a couple of years later receive quite a threatening letter from a court in Washington State. And I thought, given that I valued my ability to possibly at some point travel back to the States without getting busted at customs, which in my slightly paranoid mind I imagined this is what would happen, I thought I'd better pay the hugely inflated ticket at that point. So I thought that wasn't great advice from the man on the spot that should have known what was going on.
So that's your worst advice?
Yeah, right now I'm thinking that's probably the worst advice I've ever received.
Oh, okay, well, I'll come back to your best advice in a moment, yeah? Richard, worst or best?
Best, I think. Best both ways. Best advice I ever gave was when I was about 11 or 12, bizarrely, and my godmother, my Auntie Carol, she had a Vauxhall Chevette, and she said, I'm looking to get a new car, and you've always got your head in a car magazine, what do you think I should get? And because she was a school teacher, lived on her own and did local miles pottering around and just wanted an easy car to drive that was reliable. And so I said to her, for some reason, why don't you buy a Nissan Sunny? Which, back then...
Yeah.
Did you have a crystal ball or something?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
because,
Blimey.
if I'd immersed myself in car magazines that much, I don't know, maybe car magazines were different back then, because, a lot of them, certainly some of the weekly ones, they bang on always about, a car is good if it's good on the limit, handling-wise and stuff like that, and that's all of what it's about.
Anti-Carols aren't concerned with that, are
No,
they?
exactly, and I don't know, but I was thinking about this, and I thought, well, I was quite young at the time, I don't know, this is a strange moment of wisdom in an otherwise rather stupid childhood. And
You didn't say the De Tomaso Pantera.
No, exactly.
Lamborghini.
I think
Ferrari.
you should get a Dutton Mariner or something. And
And I know why that car always appealed to me as well.
well, yeah, but not. It wouldn't. Thankfully, it wouldn't have appealed to my Auntie Carol, and I didn't recommend her that. I said, get a Nissan Sunny. That was in about 1986, I think. She's still got that Nissan Sunny, and when she always writes me a letter on my birthday and at Christmas just to let me know how things are going, and I drop in and see her sometimes when I'm back home, and I always get an update on how the Sunny's doing, and it's fine, and it sails through its MOT. And she can't think of anything to replace it with because it's been the most reliable, dependable, and just inoffensively useful car that she or anyone she knows has ever had. And all because of some precocious little runt that gave her this advice back in the 80s. So I'm quite proud of that. It's the one bit of good advice I've ever given.
Richard, if you weren't a precocious car-based little runt when you were little, and you, Zog, and me, we wouldn't be making this flaming podcast.
Right.
Can I just tell you about the best piece of car advice that I was given? Well, lots of people were given this by Quentin Wilson on the telly, but who I used to work with, and he once said something about when you're buying a car, look at the person who's selling it, yes, and this was brought home to roost last week. I said on the last a couple of shows ago that I was having these things where I just keep looking at buying a big barge, and I've decided that with my sort of Auntie Carol brain on, it should be a Lexus LS400 just because they're reliable, and you don't get much more reliability for 1,500 quid or whatever. It seems like a bit of a giveaway. So I went to have a look at an LS400 that was advertised by what appeared to be a car dealer on the internet, and had this website that I should have worried about this because an awful lot of typos on it, but then he's a car dealer, he's not a grammar snob, because that's my job, because it's what I do for a living, and so I went to see this, and it was advertised on the website, a family run business. Well, he'd sort of taken that to a slightly overly literal degree, because he seemed to be running it from the family home, and his quite large driveway was stuffed with cars. Now, there was no chance of me getting a test drive of this car. I knew that as soon as I arrived, because it was hemmed in by 6 other cars, including a bright yellow Ford Escort Cabrio and a Cadillac STS. So apart from anything else, it suggested his judgment was way out of whack. And a slightly surly, shaven-headed, cockney-type bloke. And the car looked quite spanky in the pictures on his website, but was actually quite shabby and quite clearly had a water leak into the interior, which he tried to dismiss.
Photoshopping, maybe?
Yes,
How did he dismiss a water leak? So you got moisture on the glass on the interior?
Yeah, the inside, the back windscreen and one rear window all steamed up, which to me always says, oh, that car's got a water leak. You could just tell, can't you? Sure enough, lifted up the floor mat in the footwell by the steamed up window, and the carpet was sopping wet. Now, he tried to dismiss this as the fact that the car had recently had, quote unquote, a professional valet. But it was such a professional valet, there was still a residue of ash in the fag tray. So, it was a shabby car, and he lived in a shabby house and was a shabby man. I hope he's not listening, because he looked like he could kick your head in. But
when you say family, I reckon it was the family.
Yeah, well, it was that. And I was driving away, and I was thinking, well, I sort of, as soon as I turned up and saw these just cars littered on his frontage, and God knows what his neighbours must think, and then the bloke with his sort of shaven head, and he was always on his mobile while I was there, and stuff, and this sort of other man turned up and took some keys and disappeared, all the bit shady, and all I could think of was Quentin Wilson's sage advice: rough traders sell rough cars.
Good advice. Okay, the best advice I could give anyone, I think, is when you're getting married, right? Don't drive away from the church or the registry office or the significant neutral location with your sunroof open.
Would this be something to do with what people might throw into the car
Correct.
as you're driving away?
Were you in confetti-based hell?
Nope.
Were you in foam hell?
Nope.
Did someone lob a pint of lager into your car?
What do people throw at weddings?
Oh, rice.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Back in the days when I was married, before I had a girlfriend and 2 children, I was married, and
Should add that you're not married anymore. It's not just like you're
no, that's got nothing to do with this.
Crazed polygamist.
I got married and we drove away from the reception. Bye! Off they go in the beautiful 19...
Go on, tell us what car was it?
It was my Lancia HBE, of course, which
my
I
God.
just spent a lot of money having it restored, so it looked beautiful as I drove away, and it really did. It was never at its best, I have to say. We drove off with the roof open, and people threw rice, and I kissed my new wife, a bit like that scene in the end of On a Majesty's Secret Service, it's going to be
Well, without the being shot.
Without the tragedy.
Yes. Well, there certainly was a tragedy involving that marriage, but I won't go into that.
Leave it. So what happens when you have rice thrown into your car?
Well, it finds little holes to fall into.
No.
And the little hole, you're working it out.
If it gets wet,
Yes.
then the rice is going to hold on to the moisture.
Yes.
And trap it. It
Yes.
will also expand,
Yes.
however,
Yes.
and actually and expand quite considerably. So
Yes.
if it could actually maybe it could fracture
Yes.
some bits of the car
Yeah.
if
Yes.
enough rice gets
Well-
in.
Well, also, it was an ageing Lancia,
Well,
and therefore it will have leaked water at some point, thus causing the rice to swell. Am I right?
For a fraction of a second, I did wonder whether there was much water coming to this car, but I thought, no, it's a Lancia, an old Lancia. Of course water is going to pour into this car.
This car, the drainage holes in the surround for the sunroof filled with rice. So whenever the rain poured into the sunroof and went into these correct channels, and this car was perfectly dry beforehand, it filled the rice in there, it blocked the drainage channels, and water slowly seeped in through the headlining into the car, rotting my poor little Lancia away.
Did you ever get it?
Oh, right, okay, and here's my second bit of advice, right? If you then realise that your drainage pipes, which are rubber, are blocked with rice, don't get a coat hanger and shove it down there, because all that does is pierce the rubber in many places, so you get multiple bits of water coming in through the roof of your
This is
car.
a rice-based disaster.
A rice-based disaster. So that's the best advice I could give you. Keep your sunroof closed if you're driving off and they're throwing rice when you get married, right?
Good.
Best
Like
bit-
It's fairly
I like
random. I have to admit, I won't be passing it on to Auntie Carol, but
that's solid gold.
it's
That-
still,
that is solid gold.
I've learned something.
And the best bit of advice is, again, advice I gave myself, I think, 10 years ago. Go to Japan and buy a couple of cars. Don't buy them over here. I saved myself something like 20 grand on 2 beautiful cars. I have one car which I'm still driving to this day, and the other one which I sold for a massive profit 2 years later.
Sage advice now for people in Europe who I gather are coming over here and rebuying E30 M3s and Delta Integrales and stuff like that, because the euro to pound exchange rate is so favourable.
Oh, I see.
All these desirable recent classics
Wow.
are going back, a lot of the cases, whence they came. Because, in happier times, people from Britain were going over to Germany and snapping up E30 M3s,
Yeah,
great
we're-
classic,
we're
going to southern Europe to buy Integrales, because,
Yeah.
you guarantee they wouldn't have been sort of exposed to moisture so much. And even Porsche 964 RSs, things like that, often get a left-hand drive one from Germany, and now they're all going back because of the exchange rate.
Coming soon on Quaaludes Records. Now, these are some songs that we call things Gareth made up using exactly the same drum pattern. 5, featuring the Mary and Jesus chain with I'm Happy Driving When It Rains.
Got windshield wipers. Got a heater set to dim mist. I don't mind if this precipitation continues to persist. Got Pirelli P0s. Got a rear fog light. Ties will shift, standing water. Visibility's alright.
And Building Cars for America from Bruce Steenspring.
I got a job on the production line. The wages were poor, the hours were fine. Building Corvettes and Chevrolets. I never worked nights, I only worked days.
BAAA, it's Building Cars in Liverpool by the mighty La.
Let's speak no more about the bad times. Don't let it go to your head. It seems as if the car manufacturers are starting to see red. We told the world I wanna hold your hand. We gave the world a prototype boy band. We even sing in tune while building your car. We had the Beatles, now we got Jaguar. No more tattoos, no more work to rule. The Mersey motor makers, they ain't no fool. They're building cars again in Liverpool. They're building cars again in Liverpool.
Now, these are songs that we call things Gareth made up using exactly the same drum pattern. 5. Not available in music shops because they've all closed down.
Gareth Jones on speed. It's a little bit funny.
It's usually about this time of the year that we start getting excited at the prospect of Le Mans. We've already talked about Aston Martin being there with their new sports prototype coupe. It's a Lola. But a car that we're equally excited by is the new Audi R15. Yeah, so very, very excited.
Was that a song? I turned around, then I thought there was a flamenco dance.
Fernando Alonso passed through here for a moment.
Just have a very quick,
It was
quiet
good.
round
It
of
was
applause
good
there.
flamenco.
First of all, why is it called the R15? The last car was the R10. The one before it was the R8. Why? Do we know? You know the Audi people. Richard, have they even phoned you up and said,
Not
Richard,
really.
I've got an explanation?
I don't know. I suppose I could try and ring someone. I'm just going to guess that it's because they think it's 5 better.
I reckon there's something proper behind it to do with sort of development projects that have or haven't been continued. You know,
that's
there was,
true.
there was an R9
Probably,
between the
yeah.
R8 and 10.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was an R9 between the 8 and 10 that they didn't
Yeah.
bother to make.
R12
But
was
there's a
the
lot.
new drinks machine by the ladies Lou.
Yeah,
right,
The
there you
Motorsport
go.
Factory. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact that I've just made up.
The R13 was their new keyring.
That's right.
And the R14, I think, was a glider with a carbon fibre main spar in the 1980s,
And the
built
scary
by
thing is
Flug
you're
and
not
Start.
making that up.
No, I don't think I am. I think that is based on something I know about. There was a R14 glider with a carbon fibre spar, I think, made by Flug and Start in about 1978. Gosh, that's worrying that I'm thinking about that now. But it's quite an interesting looking car. It looks actually a bit more like the R8 than the R10, but it's got this kind of great big wide now strong front sort of thing going on with a high nose.
Putting your fingers in your cheeks and pulling your cheeks apart works much better on TV than on a podcast.
I'll put a picture of this on the website so you can see me doing an impression. There you go.
Also,
in fact, there you go. There'll be a new car face in the next couple of weeks. I'll do that.
What they've done, I noticed, is then to sort of try and compensate for the wide-mouthed frog thing and the higher nose, is sort of put a graphic, even on the car that was on test that had no sponsors on it, but they'd already put on the sticker that tries to replicate the grille shape of an Audi road car, just to try and keep that continuity.
Keep the branding.
in an increasingly tenuous way. But
The thing that struck me most about the look of the new Audi was actually there's something in common with the new Red Bull in that they both have this thing at the back of sort of the bodywork being really sucked in, and they seem to have tried particularly hard to minimise the amount of bodywork right at the back of the car, where it's all, you know,
Actually,
sort of
if you
funneling
think,
down.
if you think about it, it's a massive difference, because you look at the back of the R10 and the R8, you could land a Phantom F4 on there. It was like an aircraft carrier. It's a great big flat silver back end. It really was noticeably flat, and that's just gone, hasn't it? It's as if someone's had a go at it with a spoke shave. There you go. I haven't used that term for a long time. A spoke shave to carve it away, you know.
Oh, that's done it. No, that has done it. No, there's nothing at the back of the car. Yeah.
Are Audi and is Adrian Newey, being the designer of the new Red Bull car, are they onto something really good here? Are these going to be super quick?
Audi, lots of money, proven track record of success.
Oh yeah.
Adrian Newey, brain the size of the moon.
A couple of planets, yeah.
So you'd sort of think, well...
I mean, I'm thinking this is maybe...
What either of them had done it, but both... You've got to say they've probably got something there.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm regretting saying what I said about who I thought was going to win Le Mans. The head says it had to be Audi or Peugeot, and I went for Peugeot on the basis that there was no Audi to look at yet. That Peugeot have been, building up their Le Mans running experience, and this year should be the year they'll do it. But now that R15's out, I don't know.
It's looking a bit right, isn't it? Yeah. If it looks right, it'll go right. That's what they say.
That's the adage, isn't it? Yeah.
Peugeot have done a bit of sorting out the looks of the 908 HDI Fat. They've given it a chrome dome. Have you seen that? And there's a reason for it. The top of the canopy where the driver sits has been covered in that sort of chrome-finished polythene or polyethylene to plastic of some kind.
Mylar stuff?
Yeah, Mylar probably. Yeah. To radiate the heat back because the drivers were overheating. So clearly Peugeot, I reckon it's going to be a hot Le Mans this year and there'll be no rain. So I'm definitely going, and I'm going to go in an XK150 convertible, I think. Why not? Let's pull this whole programme.
There you go. Well, I'm going in... I expect to be going in my 944 Turbo, but... hey, I'm open to better offers.
Jetpack, Richard, for you?
I haven't decided yet. I don't know. There are a number of options that might involve private aviation, but then again, I don't know. If I could find a nice man who wasn't a prototype gangster who would sell me a big old barge of some sort, I could go down in that. I haven't decided yet.
Find out. Yes, find out what it is.
Yes, I'm sure everyone's really on the edge of their seat going, I wonder how Porter's going to get to Le Mans. The scabby bastard.
On a final note, this email I received recently from Shane Kleinpeter. That's got to be an anagram, isn't it?
Can I just say something, by the way? I went into the Top Gear office today and an email had gone round our office that had been forwarded from BBC in the US that said, has there ever been a scriptwriter on Top Gear called something like Shane Bumgardner?
Hey!
Because we've received a CV or a resume from someone who says that he used to write on Top Gear. Wants a reference.
A fantasist.
If I was going to make up a pen name... That's what I would have chosen, ironically, but I hadn't had the presence of mind to do it. Sorry, anyway, go on.
So from Shane Bumgardner...
Who's this guy's name?
This is Shane Kleinpeter. Make up your mind, is it Klein or Peter? I don't know. Anyway, Shane Kleinpeter says, love the podcast, keep up the good work. Wanted to comment on the last show I listened to in which you had a roundtable discussion on plug-in electric cars. Zog... standing to my right, commented that a good idea would be to have battery swapping stations. According to the New York Times, somebody is already working on that, and there's a link to a New York Times thing. There you go. Yeah, hey. So join us for more predictions of the future.
More inadvertent predictions of the future. More random flailing into the space of the future.
You've been listening to...
I've been Richard Porter.
I'm still Zog.
And next time I will be Gareth Jones on Gareth Jones on Speed. And I'm going to play you out, as this was the nearest show to St David's Day for Welshmen everywhere, and mostly me, of course. Here's a song in a language you almost certainly won't understand a word of unless you are Welsh like me. The song is by Gareth Jones R13, which translates into Gareth Jones on Speed in Welsh. And the song is called Car Cymraeg, which means a Welsh car. If you want a translation, it's on the website. Ta-ra, everyone.
1, 2, 3, 4! Dim ond ychydig nath y waith o fy neud o'n halon ar fy clywys.
You can contact the show on speed at GarethJones.tv. Read lyrics and find out more at GarethJones.tv or subscribe for free at the iTunes store. Gareth Jones on Speed is made by Whiz Bang.